Hi there, Erin here. And I wanted to report in about my experience with my baseline visit for the clinical trial that I'm enrolled in for Alzheimer's prevention. So, just quick backstory, I am genetically destined to develop early onset Alzheimer's disease, and I am in a clinical trial that aims to prevent or delay disease and to hopefully prove that that can be done. I'm just starting the study, and I had my first visit to what is called a research site for the study last week. I live in the Houston, Texas area, and my visit was in Dallas. So it was about a 4 hour drive, and my husband joined me for a portion of that visit. The visit itself was 3 days long. So I arrived on a Sunday evening, stayed overnight in a hotel, and reported to the research site the next morning. And the first day involved reviewing some of the informed consent materials that I had previously reviewed, answering questions, and handling some of that sort of administrative business, reviewing medication lists, and getting an amyloid PET scan, which involves, I said amyloid, that's probably not true, a PIB PET scan, I think it's called, which involves being injected with radioactive material through your vein and getting a PET scan at a very specific time. The radioactive material binds to certain substances in your brain, and it allows researchers to see what sort of abnormal Alzheimer's proteins might exist. The idea for this particular study is that there shouldn't be a whole lot of amyloid. My dad developed Alzheimer's symptoms around the age of 58 to 60 or so. And so I'm still a good 18, 17 years out from that. And Alzheimer's can begin developing in your brain up to 25 years prior to onset. But the idea behind this particular trial is that by treating people as early as possible, we might be able to prevent the disease symptoms from actually occurring, right? So, anyway, I got the PET scan, and that night I picked up Brant from the airport. He flew in to join me. The next day, we reported in, and both he and I had a role in the cognitive analysis and the cognitive testing portion of the site visit. So Brant was interviewed about what he observes with my behaviors and tendencies so that they can get an idea of what my baseline is. And I was interviewed. I also did a range of cognitive tests. So stuff like, counting backwards and describing the day and the month and the year and the location, memorizing stories, memorizing word lists, drawing diagrams, mapping stuff together, just all kinds of things that you might expect if you were to be tested for a disease like Alzheimer's. So I think that those tests are designed to kind of understand the limits of your abilities. And that can be a really humbling experience because some of the stuff you're not going to remember, or you're not going to do it accurately, and you're going to know that you're faltering. And that's because they want to figure out, how much you can do to figure out what the limits of your memory are. So that was maybe a couple hours. And after that, we had the chance to grab lunch. And then towards the end of that second day, I went for an MRI. So for the MRI, I got suited up in hospital gowns, and I had to lay still in the MRI machine for a total of 48 minutes. They did a range of different scans, and the technician told me, like, okay, this scan's going to be 1 minute, this scan's going to be 5 minutes, or whatever it was. Some of them I could have my eyes closed, others of them had my eyes open. They asked me what music I preferred, and I asked for Lana Del Rey to try and be nice and mellow and calm, but I couldn't hear it for the most part because the MRI machine is really, really loud compared to the PET scan. And then we had dinner at the hotel, went to sleep. And on day 3, we woke up bright and early, packed up our stuff, checked out of the hotel, and made it down to the research site by 7 a.m. so they could take blood draw, they could do vital signs, and then I went down to the imaging center for my lumbar puncture. And I've been documenting the journey of my lumbar puncture on my YouTube channel. It turned out to be a little bit more eventful than I would have preferred. But essentially, it involved having my back numbed, and then I was raised up so that the cerebrospinal fluid flowed out of my back. They took 25 milliliters, about 4 teaspoons, which is about 1/6 of your cerebrospinal fluid. And then they set me back up and I laid flat so that my dura, which is, I guess, the container in which your cerebrospinal fluid is contained, could start to heal. After that, I was wheeled back to the research center and I rested in a recliner there for about an hour. And then Brant and I got in the car for our 4-hour drive from Dallas back to our home. I laid in the back seat because I was advised to lay flat for 24 hours after the lumbar puncture. And on the drive home, I started to develop a mild headache. That night, I felt like I was all right. Like I would be able to go to sleep and wake up feeling 100%, even though I was a little bit headachy. But that was very much not what happened. I woke up the next morning just completely unable to sit up or stand up without really bad pressure in my neck and the back of my head, and a lot of pain. So Thursday in bed all day, Friday in bed all day. And by Saturday, I went to the ER here locally to try to get what's called a blood patch. Unfortunately, the interventional radiologists that do blood patches don't work weekends. And so I had to go home back in bed Saturday evening, all day Sunday, and first thing Monday, I was able to go back in. By noon or 1 p.m. on Monday, I finally had the blood patch that helps heal leaking cerebrospinal fluid. Yesterday was Tuesday. I was feeling like I would say 95%, but today's Wednesday, a full week after my lumbar puncture, and I am like back to 100%. So grateful to be feeling this way. I have so many thoughts and observations about this first week of research and so many things I want to share with all of you. I'm going to continue to release videos here about what I'm experiencing and my reflections on the whole situation, but I wanted to record this now that I'm upright while my memories of the baseline appointment experience are still fresh, just so others can see a little bit about what all goes into Alzheimer's research. So I just really appreciate your attention. Thank you.